India's Finance Minister, Arun Jaitley. Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us. 2 years on, how would you characterise the pace of structural economic reform in your country?
I think it's extremely important what all has happened. It's directional. And I would term it as the second generation reforms which were already delayed. I think the point to be flagged really is that step by step, almost week after week, we've been coming out with some step or the other. But what's important, they are all aimed in the same direction. So cumulatively, it comes out as a very large package of reforms, and it's not complete as yet.
What's the most pressing policy priority? Is it fiscal consolidation or going for growth?
I think it's a balancing act. I don't think you can detach the two from each other. We can't claim to be an important emerging economy, the fastest growing major economy in the world, benefiting from oil prices, and then say consolidation is not possible. So really we have to balance fiscal consolidation along with growth. And in the past 2 years, we worked in that direction.
Taxation and the GST bill, are you where you want to be 2 years on?
Well, I would have been happier if we'd made a lot more headway. As far as direct taxation is concerned, there was a lot of baggage that the last government had left behind. We had an image of a country which taxes retrospectively. We had an image of a country where there is unreasonable taxation which is eventually never able to be sustained in courts. We had unpredictability, and therefore our taxation was not exactly giving us the right image which would help an emerging economy. I think in the past 2 years, a lot of those fears have been set at naught. We've said goodbye to the whole idea of a retrospective taxation. Those who were at the receiving end of retrospective taxation, we've given them various options, from the legal option to a settlement option and so on. And the ball is really in their court. Additionally, as far as direct taxes are concerned, we've given repeated opportunities to people to come out clean, to resolve all disputes so that we don't have litigations and tax areas pending in courts. And I think what's most important is that the twofold steps we are taking. One, with regard to Middle India, we are giving an opportunity of saving more, and therefore various kinds of incentives are given. As far as the corporate India and corporate investors globally are concerned, we are giving them a cleaner taxation system, phasing out all exemptions, and eventually bringing the corporate tax rate down to 25%. And therefore, with this kind of a predictability, I think we are moving in that direction, and hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, we would have covered a lot of headway in this. As far as the GST is concerned, it's been passed in one house of parliament. It was blocked by one party in the other house, and I do hope in the next session it makes a significant headway.
Just on that, Minister, why do you feel it's proving so hard to garner cross-party support for the GST
No,
bill?
it is not proving hard to garner cross-party support. Almost every political party in India supports GST. All state governments support GST. I think for reasons which are not tax-related, but reasons which are political, one party blocks Parliament every time GST comes up. And since we would prefer to implement it with consensus, I've been trying to persuade them. I hope I succeed, and if I don't, then I'll have to resort to the last option of putting it to votes, and I'm reasonably confident the numbers are on our side.
I wanted to ask you that. Do you think that you have the numbers and the political capital in Parliament to pass the GST bill? And if so, when do you think you can pass it?
Well, I hope to push it through in the next session. And as far as the numbers are concerned, I don't think there is any significant opposition we have to the idea of GST. Almost every regional party, all parties which otherwise don't support the government, support the idea of a GST and the bill in its present form. All state governments in India have approved the present format of the bill.
Talk us through, if you can, Minister, and elaborate on how tax harmonisation will impact businesses, the industry broadly, the consumer, and ultimately how it's going to affect tax revenues and collection?
India has a large population, 1/6 of the world's population. We have a very large middle class and therefore a very large consuming class. Now, in a federal polity in India, the center has its own taxation, the states have their own taxation. Then you have local taxes, etc. by bodies. As a result of which, the taxation integration of India has not taken place. And therefore, to transfer goods or services across the country without hurdles is not possible. The GST will make India into one big market, probably one of the largest single markets in the world. It will allow a seamless transfer of goods and services. That's the second advantage. The third advantage of the GST will be that today at every stage where from manufacture till the sale, various center and state taxes take place. The next component of tax includes a tax on tax already paid. I think that will get eliminated. So there will be no tax on tax. Goods and services will be cheaper. Evasion will be difficult because at any stage of the value chain, if a particular product comes within the IT network that we have, then at a subsequent stage to evade taxation will be very difficult.
If I can ask you, Minister, how much do you believe the federal government is losing in tax receipts from tax evasion?
You see, when we introduce the VAT, from tax evasion, I think we lose a lot. Because I won't quantify it. For example, last year itself, an amount of 71,000 crores in direct and indirect taxes which was being evaded is what we've detected. Now, the ones which we have not been able to detect would be much large. And therefore, evaded tax doesn't come within the structured economy. And therefore, the more the taxation, the greater will be our ability to lower the rates of taxation. As a result of which, goods cost less, services cost less, the GDP itself gains. Now, economic experts believe that 1 or 1% plus growth in the GDP can be contributed by the GST itself. Now, these are the various advantages. And what's most important is that the consuming states are going to benefit extensively, which means that an interstate equity also will be enabled with the GST coming into force.
All right. Let's move on to another issue, and that is the new bankruptcy law that was passed this month. What does it mean for the insolvency regime in India, and to what degree do you think it will help the state banks recover their dues?
You see, in India, our old insolvency and bankruptcy laws were very obsolete. Those relating to private individuals and partnerships were almost non-functional or very ineffective. Those relating to companies were scattered in various ways. There was a provision in the Companies Act, there was a provision in the Sikh Industries Act, and so on. And functionally, these were not very effective. And therefore, for any investment to get struck in these failed companies, to exit out of those companies or for the investor to exit out was extremely difficult. You would lose the investment. I think this reform was already belated. It was long overdue. This has now enabled the banking system in India and other creditors to actually take possession of the assets of a failed company. You won't allow those assets to evaporate and disappear. You take and then you recover the best possible recoveries that you can make yourself.